welcome to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast, Achieving Peace Through Compassion. This podcast is a recording of the Dharma Talks given during our Sunday service.
Thank you for being here. Today, the topic of my Dharma Talk is make your life meaningful. Make your life meaningful. And so I want to pose the following question, and that is, I want you to reflect on, is my life meaningful? Is my life meaningful? And if the answer you come up with is no, then I want you to reflect on, what would it take to make it so? What would it take to make it so? So I'm going to talk about a meaningful life and what I think that means. And that's it. That's what I'm going to talk about today. So I'm going to share with you first a quote from Zen Master Seung Sahn. Zen Master Seung Sahn was a Korean Zen master, and he lived in the United States from the 70s until the early 2000s when he passed away. And I didn't meet him, but I studied with one of his students. But he said this thing about the meaningful life that it really meant a lot to me when I heard it. And it's the kind of thing that sometimes these Buddhist teachings, when I hear them, I hear it and I think, oh, that sounds really true, but I don't understand what it means, but I'm sure it's true. Sometimes I feel that way. So I especially point to like the Heart Sutra, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. What? Right? But it sounded really true when I heard that. And so now that I've built it up a whole bunch, Seung Sahn said about a meaningful life, he said, attain your true self and help others. Attain your true self and help others. Now, attain your true self, right? We could go deep into what that means, but that really sounded true to me when I heard it. And I also want to share with you, I was reading this book, The New Saints by Lama Rod Owens, and he talked about the meaningful, highly recommend, and he talked about the meaningful life. Instead of attaining your true self, he talked about it as liberation. The way to a meaningful life is to look for liberation. I really like that language. And he talks about spiritual liberation and what he calls social liberation. And we think these two are separate. A lot of the time we think these two are separate. So when I'm at the Rime Center, when I'm doing these practices, what am I working towards? Spiritual liberation. And when I'm in the world, say, helping other people, then I'm working towards social liberation. But it's all liberation. It's all where we're trying to release ourselves from the things that bind us, which are, what are they? Greed, hatred, and delusion, right? The poisons that sort of take us off track. So I'm going to read to you now the first of the 37 verses on the practice of a bodhisattva. It's called the Make Life Meaningful verse. And I'm going to read this to you and then comment on it. So in the first one, it says, and I quote, "Now that I have this great ship, a precious human life, so hard to obtain, I must carry myself and others across the ocean of samsara. To that end, to listen, reflect, and meditate, day and night, without distraction, is the practice of a bodhisattva." So, life, in this metaphor, life is like a ship, or our being in this incarnation is like a ship. And we're trying to get across an ocean. That ocean is this ordinary world of suffering. And on the other side is liberation, or we could say attaining your true self. So I really like this ocean metaphor. I've not been on a ship on the ocean, but I've seen it in TV, right? So I know like sometimes the ocean is pretty calm, and other times there are waves and tides that are dangerous, right? And sometimes like you could wreck. Sometimes if we want to really extend it, sometimes there are sharks and things, right? So we need to learn how to navigate this ocean of life because it can be dangerous and it can be hard. And if we don't learn how to navigate it, we're in big trouble. And we also need to learn how to make sure we're going in the right direction. And I'll mention Zen Master Sungsan one more time because he described Buddhism as like having a compass, a compass. So I like that. That's a navigation metaphor. It kind of is related to having a ship, right? It points us in the direction we want to go, the right direction. Where are we going? That's the question. So we need to, one, appreciate this ship that is our life, that is our being, and not just appreciate it, but take good care of it too. In spite of what Bob Dylan or Jay-Z may tell you in their songs, what we're not going to be is young forever, right? Although I'm not young anymore. If you don't know from my gray hair and my beard and my thinning hair, I'm middle-aged, but I'm not going to be middle-aged forever either. And if I'm fortunate enough to grow old, I'm not going to be old forever either, right? So we've got to take care of this ship that is our life. We've got to take care of it because who knows? Of course, who knows where this is going? Who knows how long it's going? We don't know. So, but where are we going? Where am I going? I want to, as I said, attain my true self and help others, or work toward social and spiritual liberation. I want my life to go in a really positive direction and not a negative one. And the truth is, my life wasn't always going in a positive direction, but we can always change and do better. And it's going to be difficult to tell this story and be vague, but one of my kids really used harsh words against another one of my kids for a habit they used to have, they don't have anymore. And so I had to tell my kid, like, hey, we have to let people grow. Our job in life is to grow. And obviously, we know kids have maturing to do, but I can tell you I have maturing to do. I think we all have maturing to do. I'll tell you who it was later. So I can move through life just being a taker and indulging all my vices all the time. And I already know that if I don't have Buddhism, that's probably how I'm going to live my life. So I can live my life being a taker, or I can try to live in a better way. I want to make the case that life is not about taking. Life is not about giving into our temptations or stepping on other people to get ahead or chasing after success. I don't know what success means, but life's not about chasing it. If we're doing those things, if that's where we're trying to direct our lives, the thing about that is, we're not going to be satisfied. We will never be satisfied. So we need to be reminded, it's easy to forget. Human life is precious, and it's important that we're here. And we also, although we may not feel this way, we're also lucky to be here. I'm really grateful I was born in a time and place where I have a toilet in my house, right? Because for most of human history, people didn't. Can you imagine? Wow. And so we can be grateful even when life's really hard. There are things to be grateful for. It's hard though. So it's good not to waste this opportunity, this great and precious opportunity. That's what we could be doing. We could waste our lives really easily. We can waste our lives by having another drink or going to the club or just mindlessly scrolling on our phones. If I wasn't here doing this, I'd probably be watching TV or scrolling on my phone right now and rotting my brain in one way or another. And that's not to say those things are totally bad, but some of us are really not good at moderation. And some people are good at moderation, and that's great. I'm not. So what we can do, though, is we can do things that try to make the world a better place instead. I want to suggest that life is about attaining our true self and helping others. That's where we get meaning. And life is also about coming together in a community like this. And life is about sharing and helping other people and spreading love and compassion wherever and whenever we can. That's what life is for. That's what makes life meaningful, and it's important. I'm reminded of Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr. He said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? And I think about that sometimes. And of course, we've got that holiday honoring him coming up soon. We want to try not to waste our lives chasing after so many things that don't bring lasting happiness. The truth is that these things we're chasing after, it's all fleeting anyway. It's all fleeting anyway. And the Diamond Sutra describes life as like a drop of dew or a flash of lightning. All these things we're chasing, they can just be gone. I'd argue that when we're paying attention to our lives, when we're really paying attention, we learn that. We're chasing things all the time that are fleeting, and sometimes, often, we're stuck on autopilot and we don't even know we're chasing things sometimes. And we can even miss important things. When we're just chasing the next thing, that does not serve us well. We're never going to get everything. And clinging and grasping can really make us suffer for that reason. So this teaching that I read, the 37 verses, it exhorts us to instead listen, reflect, and meditate. And I want to add coming together in community to that because I think that's important, but that's in some other verses in these 37 verses. So we don't need to go into that. But I'm glad I've found my people here at the Rime Center. And if you haven't found your people, I recommend the Rime Center for that. So listening in this context, we're talking about the various ways we study Buddhist teachings. So not just listening to me now, but if you're reading a Buddhist text, that counts as listening because we're using the word listening because the earliest teachings, they were not written down. People shared them by word of mouth. So we use the word listening in this teaching. And reflecting, you can probably guess, is taking in the teachings and striving to understand them. So we want to not just, obviously, we don't want to just read and then it's gone, but we want to strive to understand it as well. And meditating in this context means sort of becoming the teachings and really embodying them. So in this book, The Heroic Heart, Awakening Unbound Compassion by Jitsunma Tenzin Palmo, she says, and I quote, "Without practice and understanding in our heart, studying is just endlessly learning, while nothing inside us is transforming." And she goes on to say, "Study to know what we're trying to do, then to really think it through so we really understand it, and then incorporate it into our lives and become it. We've got work to do." I love that last part, we've got work to do. Oh, sorry, end quote. I love that last part, we've got work to do, because I don't know about you, but I've got lots of work to do. So that's what we're here for, cultivating this heroic heart, this boundless heart, and awakening our compassion and wisdom, learning to see things clearly, learning how to stop being on autopilot all the time so maybe we make better choices, and taking care of other people. And it's really important also taking better care of ourselves, to be out there helping. And we need that message. I know I do. Open up your heart. That's the way. And that last line in the verse about doing this day and night, that's because there's a certain trap we can fall into. And that trap is thinking that we're spiritual when we're here. And then when we walk out that door, well, that's our normal life. That's not where we're spiritual here. And I want to submit to you that everywhere you go is a sacred space. And everything you do can be awakened, heroic, bodhisattva action. Bodhisattva living is developing this heroic heart. And I say the bodhisattva way is hardcore because we're called to do it 24/7. We're here to make a difference in the world. So make your life meaningful and don't waste it. And I hope this talk's been helpful. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Rime Buddhist Center's Dharma Talk podcast. Music was provided by Barefoot Brand Music. Please consider supporting the Rime Buddhist Center by making a donation at our website at www.rimecenter.org/donate.